when you had that call out for former Relief Society presidents, that was within a couple weeks of me resigning as the Relief Society president. And I had, watching that episode, I had all of these things I would have talked about.
Well, now's your chance.
Yeah.
And Margie,
We're coming back around.
Yes.
So maybe start by just saying, as someone who served in the church my whole life, served a mission, married in the temple, and served in many Relief Society presidencies and as the Relief Society president, this is your list of conclusions you made.
Okay. And I wish that there were believing members still active. I don't know how many of them watch this. And like, this is, this
like
is some
bishops,
of the message.
stake presidents, like, we have a ton of believing faithful Mormons.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yes, this is a message for them as well. So my first bullet point is parenting. And the idea of forcing your kids into a certain role and to do certain things. When they're young, that seems okay, but as they grow and develop, I realized I was never taking into account their own experience with these things, and I was never taking into account what they were learning and feeling about these things. So it's hitting the milestones of the church or what you're so pleased about, and if they don't hit those milestones, that seems to be a disappointment. And I started to recognize that with my own parents because I have two siblings that as teenagers really gave my parents a hard time over going to church and pretty much stopped attending church at that time. And that was, my mom was so distraught over that as a parent. And so I watched that, and as a teenager, it made me really obedient to my parents because I saw the pain that brother and sister were causing my family, my parents. And so that when I became a parent, I wanted to do things a little bit differently as well. And do you have to deconstruct the church to do that? No. But there's this thing in the church where kids, I don't know why. Why do we feel this as a kid, that we're disappointing our parents if we don't believe the same way that they are believing or trying to teach us? And that is something that I wish that I had helped my children see. You have the ability to be critical thinkers and to think about this as your way and not necessarily the way that I want you to think of that. My son has written me some notes, my older son, that he's given to me for Christmas and Mother's Day and my birthday, about seeing my own growth over the last few years and how that's influenced him and how impressed he's been about that. And that has meant a lot to me. So that's one thing. Some of the pressure that the church puts on women has been a hard thing to deal with. So some of this, I think, has a lot to do with what used to be called visiting teaching and is now called ministering. So even when I came home from my mission, I went to BYU. I was called as the Relief Society president right off the bat of my student ward. And one of the things that I saw right away that the church was trying to fix was in these student wards, visiting teaching, they always keep track of the numbers, right? So visiting teaching and home teaching numbers were very low percentages. And so my bishop said, what can we do to get the percentages of home visiting teaching up? So the way that visiting teaching has always been structured is 2 sisters are assigned to 2 other sisters, and you get together, you go visit them, and you give a message, and you have this relationship with them that you're supposed to build. Well, students are super busy, and I sat and contemplated that for a while, and I came up with this model that I was going to take. Hey, most of these girls are already roommates, and I put them in companionships of 3. These 2 sisters were in charge of this sister. These 2 were in charge of this sister. These 2 were and so it worked in this triplet instead of a quad. And so you're already taking one other person's schedule out of it. Our first month, we continued over the next few years that I was the Relief Society president to have, and at this time I was proud of this, 98% success visiting teaching rate. I mean, who has that, right? So I realized when you can take away some of the complexities of the pressure of what you're trying to do, what's the point of this, and make it easier to do, then it takes away some of the pressure. So these girls were already living with these other women as their roommates, already had relationships. I would talk to them and say, who is it that you already feel close to and can keep an eye on, the point is to have this ministering type relationship with, well, let's make it as easy as possible. And so I continued to take ideas like that as I was serving as Relief Society president into my adult years and come up with ways that women could do what the church wanted them to accomplish without it being so stressful. So even as in this last time as serving as Relief Society president, why can't I have ladies that are neighbors with each other, or women that they see on a regular basis? Maybe she does her hair, they go to the gym together. Why can't they be visiting, teaching, or ministering companions with each other? Why do we have to make it so someone who never comes across each other's path only on Sunday? Let's take away some of the stresses of this. And so, like, I would have women that would come in. You're supposed to every quarter do an interview with every woman according to how their ministering is going. And women would come in crying because it was so stressful. Especially women feel this need to, well, my husband has this assignment. I have to make sure he does that. Now our 14-year-olds are now being assigned as ministers as well. I have to manage my children doing their ministering, and I have my own, and it is too much. And they would say, I just can't do it at all anymore. And so I had all these sisters that were saying, I can't do this, everything is too hard. And so it was just all or nothing. And so I think that we need to start thinking in the church outside of the box, ways to actually make it possible for families to serve in the church that is not so demanding on them. I don't disagree. Like, it's okay to have 14-year-olds start to learn how to do ministering, but it's too much. I started, instead of just assigning them, as a counselor, I would see that once they wanted to have the 14-year-olds start being ministers, they were just assigning them, and no one was ever teaching them how to do it. So I started going as a president. I would sit down with a girl when she turned 14, and I would say, look, you have this opportunity. Do you want it? And who do you want to be your companion? Do you want it to be your mom? Do you want it to be someone else? Who is it that you feel close to? Who would you like to be a minister to? And I had girls say, yes, I would love to do this. And I had girls that would say no. And I would say, great. I'm going to talk to you again in another year or two and see if you want to do this. And if you do, great. If not, that's okay too. And so this idea that it's okay to say no to what the church is asking you to do, when I was growing up, that was never an option. They told you when somebody in the church asked you to do something, you do it, and you do it happily. So I think if the church wants to have more families stay in the church, they need to figure out how to just decrease the burden that it is on families to be active members of the church. There's also so many people in the church that feel alienated, and mostly women. It has been, in my experience, women that have never married or are divorced. They do not feel like the church is a place for them. They feel like Relief Society is not a place for them. They feel alienated. The lessons are not focused on them. It's always focused on families. And more of those women are having a hard time feeling like they have any friends or a place in the church. Even women that have married late, that haven't birthed children and come in as a stepmom, that is difficult for them because now they're part of this family situation where there's a mom over here, kids attend church with that mom. Sometimes they live with the dad and the stepmom. It's so difficult for her, and people have a hard time relating to her. And those sisters often feel like, I also don't have a place in this church. So there's just all these people on the fringes. There's women that have children that are LGBTQ+. They feel very alienated by all the other women as well. And we need to do a better job of our language in church, of the way we talk about people that don't fit the norm of Mormonism. And all of our talk over the pulpit and in lessons is alienating for anyone that is outside of that. So that's some of the things.
Brilliant.
Yeah.